So how do you select the right neighborhood to live in, especially in a place like Metro Phoenix where everything is so spread out and there are so many options? This decision really goes beyond the house itself. It's about finding the lifestyle that's right for you and your future aspirations. So these are my 5 main criteria that you should be considering when you're trying to determine what neighborhood to live in. And make sure to stay till the end of this video because I have a really helpful resource that will answer all of your questions. So first, let's start with safety. This is a top priority for most people, and I'll be honest, this is really hard to determine. Why? Because you'll notice throughout the various cities and towns, there are pockets that have more crime and pockets that have less crime, and they might be right next to each other. So it's not very black and white as far as what cities have more crime than others. This can be really hard to navigate, especially if you're not familiar with the area. On top of that, everyone has a different tolerance for safety. What seems safe to me may not seem safe to you. The best way to determine whether or not you feel an area is safe is 1, drive through the area and check it out on your own, but also use a resource to look at the crime statistics in the area. CommunityCrimeMap.com is a great resource for this. It shows you all of the recent criminal activity in various areas. You can zoom in for a closer look and see specifically what crimes took place and when. Based on that information, you can decide whether or not that neighborhood is a place that you'd feel comfortable living. Next, you've got to think about schools. And even if you're someone who doesn't have kids and doesn't plan to have kids, I'm still talking to you on this one because of resale value. Just because schools might not be important to you, they will possibly be important to the buyer when you eventually sell your home. So you want to keep that in mind. If you're a family with kids or planning to have kids, schools will be an important piece to consider when you're determining what neighborhood to live in. Arizona is unique in that we are an open enrollment state, meaning you do not have to live in the district where your child goes to school. That said, it is based on the enrollment in that school and if they'll have enough room to take on additional students. So there is no guarantee you can place your child in a school out of district, but you can certainly get on a list in hopes to do so. There are areas of the valley that are known to have some of the best schools like Chandler and Gilbert. They also have some of the best school districts, but there are a lot of options for charter schools and private schools as well. So depending on what best suits your family, this is something you want to consider. Not only the proximity to schools, but the district that you're living in and the options for schools in that area. A couple great resources to determine where the best schools are and what may suit your needs. The azed.gov, the Arizona Department of Education. You can come to the tab for parents, click on school report cards, and as you scroll down, you can browse schools, districts, and state level reports. Another great resource that I find is the greatschools.org. This also ranks the schools in the Phoenix area and provides a map so you can see where they're located. My next suggestion is amenities. Have you thought much about this? And I'm not just talking about access to the nearest Starbucks or grocery store. The Phoenix area offers many master planned communities that give you a lot of amenities within your neighborhood. Many of these have walking trails. Sometimes they have lakes, pools, parks, golf courses, community centers, fitness centers, tennis courts, the list goes on and on. If that type of community and amenity is important to you, then you'll want to focus more specifically on master planned community. Generally, these are more recently built communities, like within the last 10 to 20 years, so you'll have a newer home in these areas as well. But in addition to the amenities within your neighborhood, you also want to consider what access you have right out your front door. If you're a foodie or you like shopping, you definitely want to take a look at how quickly you can get to some of your favorite restaurants or shops. There are some amazing areas of the valley to live in, but you might have a 15-minute drive to the closest Starbucks. So if that kind of lifestyle is a deal breaker for you, you can rule those out. Next on my list is the commute. Whether you're commuting to work or school, considering that commute is a really big deal. Now, depending on where you're from, places like LA or Chicago, our traffic here in Phoenix might seem like child's play. But if you're coming from somewhere where there's limited traffic, the traffic in the Phoenix area could be overwhelming for you. Just like any city, there are certain times of day where there's more traffic, and there are certain directions that get more traffic at different times of day. A few things you can do to determine this: Map the route at the time that you would be normally commuting and get an idea for how long it'll take. But even better, drive that route in the morning or the evening to make sure that's something you're comfortable with doing. Now, this tip is a realtor special. I'm talking about resale value. This may not top your list, but it's definitely something you want to consider as a factor when determining what neighborhood is best for you. The truth is, you likely won't be living in that house forever, and someday will come along when you actually have to sell the house. And at that point, you'll be really happy that you thought about resale value. Now, it's impossible to predict with any certainty, but a few things you want to think about is the future development around that area. You also want to consider if it's in a good school district, and of course, the crime statistics. If you're buying in an area that's been well established for a while and has always been a desirable area to live, it's likely that will continue. And if you're buying in a newer area, you want to consider what kind of future development is going to happen around that community. Will that area eventually become part of the city, or is it going to continue to feel like it's just on the outskirts? Like I said, it's hard to know with any certainty, but giving this some thought will really be important in choosing the right neighborhood for you. I work with a lot of buyers in different scenarios and help them decide what the best neighborhood is for them based on their budget and all of these factors that I shared with you today. Stay tuned for a future video where I share these scenarios and my suggestions on what neighborhoods they should consider. I mentioned I would have a great resource for you at the end, so here it is. Check the description below. I have a link to check out the buyer advisory that has links for all of the different things you'll want to research and consider when buying a house in Arizona. Now, if resale homes aren't what you're looking for and you're thinking more about new construction, make sure to check out this video right here to learn about what mistakes to avoid when buying new construction.